Well, good morning. We've been talking about being a people marked by the presence of God, that daily on our own know how to encounter God, not just have like a religious devotional time, but actually meet with the person of God himself. Same when we gather in small groups weekly, same when we on Sundays meet when we gather together. We're looking to meet with a person who is God himself. And when you read through the whole book of the Bible, you see it's the manifest, the experienced presence of God that is meant to define the people of God. So in the Old Testament, when God is leading Israel through the desert by his presence, by the cloud by day, the fire by night, at one point he's annoyed with the people of Israel and he says to Moses, look, I'll send my angel to take you into the land. I'm not going. But Moses says, no, you're what defines us. It's your presence that defines us from all the other peoples in the earth. And all the way through, you see this, like with Gideon, he meets the angel of the Lord. Jacob, meets with the Lord. All these different patriarchs, prophets. The people of God are defined by the experience of the person who is God, not just a general kind of religious practice. In the New Testament, we see the same thing, where they are encountering this person, sometimes with earthquakes, sometimes with fire, sometimes with miracles. Even terrible churches like the Corinthian church, who are having to be rebuked because of their immorality, they're still defined by these signs of God's presence in their midst, like unmistakable demonstrations. This is what only God can do. And the biggest threat we read in the book of Revelation with the Ephesian church, the biggest threat to the Ephesian church is, look, you guys are doing church, you're doing all the right things, your teaching's great, but you've lost your passion, your love for me. Therefore, I'm going to remove my lampstand. In other words, you're not going to be experiencing my presence anymore. And that's what church is. That's what's meant to define us. So really what I want to look at today is, what does it mean to meet with God, to really encounter God? Because last week we saw Balaam, and Balaam was seemingly getting words from God, and yet his heart was in a different place entirely. So he wasn't connecting, even though he was spending time in the, quotes, presence of God. And that can be true for us. You can be coming to church for decades and never experience God, never encounter God, never be transformed by his presence. So what does it mean to encounter God? Go with me right now to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 7. And I want us to learn something from what Jesus says about false prophets, to really, on the flip side, see what it really means to meet with God. So here we go. This is Matthew chapter 7. We're going to read verses 21 to 23, which says this. Thus you will recognize the false prophets by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons in your name, do many mighty works in your name? And then will I declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. This is really profound. So first thing to say, the whole thing I was saying last week, an accurate heart is better than an accurate word. That's what this whole principle here is about, knowing false prophets by their fruits. Clearly these guys had a gift and they were impressed with their gift. Look, we prophesied. Look, we cast out demons. Look, we did mighty works. So in their minds, they're like, look at the evidence. We got ministry going off, but they were missing an accurate heart, the fruit. When the Bible's speaking about fruit, think fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience. It's talking about character. And so these guys, their performance, it looks like, look, we are doing the will of God. We're doing ministry. But actually, the heart is what Jesus is looking for, and their heart was lacking. Accurate word, inaccurate heart. And it's the heart that he's looking for. And so the key in this passage, the key phrase really is I never knew you. And so what God is looking for is a relationship not based on our performance, like what we've achieved in ministry, but really based on that vulnerability of opening our heart to him and really searching for what his heart wants. And there's a key idea here. A focus on performance can keep us from knowing his presence. Remember the Ephesian church in the book of Revelation, like doing all these great things, great teaching, but he says, I'm going to take my lampstand because you've lost your first love. Focused on performance, not on presence. Some of you know that I've learned to experience God through going on walks with him. But the rule of the walks is I can't have an agenda. I've got to lay aside my own agenda. And that sounds simple, right? Just going for a walk, just being aware of God, being aware of him being present, no expectations. But it's hard. And it's hard because when I'm there doing that, often revelation comes, thoughts come, answers come. And so then the next time I'm going for a walk, I can't help but remember the revelation I got the last time and start thinking, well, I expect another revelation this time. And now I've got an agenda. It's a little bit like when my dad used to come back from golf on a Saturday morning and he'd bring comics and sweets and things like that. And after a while, we were less excited about seeing dad and more excited about what did you bring this time? And it's like that in my walk with God. It's so easy to slip from just enjoying being with him and being aware that he's there to kind of wanting some kind of experience or encounter. And I don't want you to misunderstand me. God does make himself known through prophecy, through miracles, through answered prayer. We're meant to experience him in these ways. But sometimes the miracle or the prophecy becomes more important than God himself. So like with the false prophets we read here in this passage, it really is about knowing him. You can know him through the miracle, but it is about knowing him. And I was walking with God this week and he said to me really bluntly, he said, John, what do you want today? Do you want words from me? Or do you want to know me as present with you? And I was like, do I have to choose? But then I thought about it and I thought, well, do you know what? If it's my wife, what would I rather? Have her physically present with me or just words from her? And if I have to choose between the two, I'm going to take Nikki physically present. And the Lord began to speak to me and he said, listen, John, I can give you more and more words of wisdom, words of information that will take you 10 lifetimes to unpack. But sometimes you just need to be still and know I'm God. And I'm realizing that over time, I've started to shift my thinking about the walks. Instead of being with my friend and knowing him as my friend, to kind of knowing him as my information delivery system. And that's not right. No one wants to be used like that. And that's what we see about the false prophets. They did have accurate prophetic words, but they didn't come to know Jesus as their friend. And his heart of love and kindness and compassion wasn't imparted through the friendship into them. Can you see how a focus on performance can take us out of the awareness of his presence? Another time, I decided I was going to seek God with all my might. And I grabbed the Bible and I started reading it, studying it from an hour. But it was dry to me. I got nothing out of it. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to worship. And so I started to sing, God. And again, I got nothing out of it. I don't want you to misunderstand me in saying this. You can't read scripture and seek God diligently and not be rewarded. He's the rewarder of those that diligently seek him. But you understand what I mean? There was something about maybe the way or the attitude I had. It's about my kind of strength that I missed him. And then I started to pray a bit. I missed him. In the end, I gave up. I literally lay down on the floor and then I just put some Christian soaking music on. This was 3 hours in or something. And as I lay there and let go, guess what happened? I experienced the presence of God. And I don't know how to quantify or describe that to you. I was crying my eyes out. I knew the God of the universe was present. I could experience him. And it's not about emotion. It's just that's the way I react when I experience God. Bill Johnson, he put it like this. He said, I never like to be more than 2 weeks from tears. And I know what he's talking about. And I don't always cry when I encounter God, but it's that awareness that he's near. God's everywhere, but sometimes he's near. And that's as much to do with the engagement of our heart as it is to do with his geography. The big battle, especially in an age of information overload, is to be still long enough that we may know him. And that in that moment, he may know us. And in that exchange of heart, we become like him. And we do and express the will of the Father. Because the Bible says when we see him, we'll be like him. We're transformed from one degree of glory to the next, beholding his face. Be still and know that he is God. Okay, I think I'm done there. Let's do what we did a few weeks ago. Let's take another minute. Let's take 1 minute and just be still and know that he is God. All right, God bless you guys. I hope that encouraged you. Spend time with him daily. If you need to, get out of the house and go for a walk, but do not miss the opportunity to be still and experience he is God. Have an amazing week. You are so loved.